Hello. Oh, goodness. Hello. Welcome to my channel. I'm Stephanie. This is my big old hair today. I don't know. This is not going to make it in the video. Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to do something with this. This is the week 9, February the 23rd through the 29th weekly wrap-up. Okay, as I said, this is the week 9 weekly wrap-up. I had to do something with my hair. I couldn't have that whole Marge's sister blue hair poofy bouffant thing going on. So I had to put it back into a ponytail. But this week I read 8 books. It was a good week at work, even though I am finding it is very interesting dynamic at this job. It's nothing that I can't handle, so, you know. Everyone is not born to lead, and everyone should not be put into, like, leadership positions if they can't handle them, or if they don't know what they're doing. So funny. So funny. So, quick little story, right? So, I am not the most tech-savvy person. I still sometimes I'll hunt and peck when I'm typing. For the most part, I'm pretty fluent at it. You know, I've been doing administrative positions for over 20 years. So I got that in the bag. I'm not going to go in and be a court stenographer or want to take your notes while you're doing a meeting or anything like that and be able to get every single word. That's not happening. But I can at least use a computer, and even different databases and access books and things like that, I can figure them out really quickly. But it is hilarious when you have a person that is supposed to be a manager or director or head of a section that is still hunting and pecking on a computer. Oh my goodness. Wow. Craziness. And I'm sorry, we're adults. I get that, you know, the job is a male-dominated job, is a, you know, half labor force, half in the office sort of thing, and maybe the person had a part of the labor force type thing before. But when you get moved up and you start working in the office, you need to wash your ass before you come into the office. So, that was my week at work. Stinky people. Hygiene, please. So, let's get into the books that I read last week. The first book that I finished was Sexy Nerd by Kayley Loring. I place this in rom-com. I give it 4 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I read this as an audiobook, and this is the classic brother's best friend, little sister story, and we have Olivia and John. Olivia is this ballet dancer. She is doing what she can to be in the ballet, and she ends up, well, John ends up sort of propositioning her to help her out and to help him out because he has some engagements that he needs to go to. So they do the fake dating thing, and they end up finding out that they really have feelings for each other. It was cute, it was sweet, it was fun, and it was a good listen. The next book that I finished, which is probably what so many of you guys are here for, I'm not gonna do 2 sections. If you don't want any spoilers for this next book, just click past. Make sure you check the description box and click past this whole review, because I'm not gonna do it. So the next book that I didn't finish reading was The Kissing Game by Mary Harte. I placed this in Women's Lit. I DNF'd it at 32%. If I was to give it a star rating, which I am, I'd give it a 1 star. This is a dumpster fire trash piece of freaking book. I don't understand how anyone could find enjoyment in this. This author did not have any freaking sensitivity freaking readers whatsoever. It was absolutely fucking horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. This book lit Twitter on fire a couple months ago, and I wasn't going to read this. I wasn't going to review it. I actually received a NetGalley arc for it, and I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to do it. I was like, oh, people are finding it racist, and, you know, the author didn't have sensitivity writers, anything like that. But then it came up on Hoopla, and I was like, maybe I'll go ahead and listen to it. That way I don't have to, you know, burn my eyes with this with this dumpster fire. If I like it, then, you know, okay, it's great. They found some narrators that could do justice to. No, they didn't. So this book follows Raina and Axel. Raina is a black female that is starting her own business, and she used to be a bartender, while Axel is the white guy that has been like lusting after her, and he's kind of this bad boy. So the many things that is wrong with this book that I let go for the first 32% was, you know, they described Axel. I knew he was going to be a white guy, period. Knew, because the cover was, it showed an interracial couple. So I'm like, okay, because I'm here for my interracial couple romances and things like that, right? I'm like, okay, there's some typical things that go into interracial books and things like that I just come to terms with. But this one was just over the top. So anyways, Axel was described as a German Viking. Well, hello, first of all, Germans and Vikings are not the fucking same. Oh my goodness. And it sort of made the audiobook even that much worse, if I'm saying that correctly, because the fucking narrator kept putting like German accent on the words. I'm like, oh my god, Germans are not freaking Vikings. They're not. Vikings are Scandinavian. Two different parts of Europe. What the fuck? And then Raina just seemed like this sort of doormat damsel in distress, and I was just like, what the fuck am I listening to? Why? What? And I guess there's definitely some other books that you probably should have read before jumping into this one, because there's a whole bunch of other characters and things like that. Well, there is this character, I can't remember her name, and I'm not even going to go get my burn book notes for it. I'm just, no. But she's pregnant. She's like the pregnant cousin or something like that. And this is the point where I was like, nope, I'm done. No more. Not torture myself any fucking more. She says about how she, you know, her husband, the guy that's gotten her pregnant and stuff like that, she's talking about, you know, it's about time that you rolled around and, you know, got yourself together to ask me out, and, you know, that's how we hooked up. And he replies something about, yeah, I had to get my whip and chain and tie you down. Whoop, boop, 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 boop. Hold the fucking presses. Could not go any further. Could not go any further with this book. Don't even want to know what the fuck happens in it. So, there's that. Dumpster fire. Dumpster fire. The next book that I finished was Trouble, which is a Dogwood Lane #3 by Adriana Locke. I placed this in New Adult. I give it 4 stars. I give it 2 Steam fans. I read this as an arc, and this is Small Town Dogwood Lane. If you have read the other 2 books in the series, you know that this is a small town and stuff like that. This doesn't actually have to do with any of the family members that are in Dogwood. This has to do with Avery, who has an aunt that has a beauty shop there, and Avery is from LA. She moved from LA to Dogwood to sort of slow down her pace. She was tired of the Hollywood scene because her parents are in the Hollywood circles, and she has been that person that continues to get used for either connections or just the fact that, you know, she has famous parents. So she moves to Dogwood Lane with her aunt to sort of get out from underneath that. And in walks Penn. Penn has been a character that we've been hearing about. He's a playboy. He has commitment issues. And in this part of the story, or in this section, in this book of the stories series, we find out why Penn has commitment issues and why he sort of has been a playboy and stuff like that. We also find out that Penn and Avery had a one-night stand way back in the day, and now the two of them are back together. However, Avery gave Penn a different name when they hooked up back then, and she looked a little different. So we spend the story sort of figuring out, you know, how they're connected, not really how they're connected, how they're going to reveal the connection. And Penn sort of has to explain why he has tattoos, and Abby has to explain the same sort of situation and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was super slow burn because they're doing this whole friends thing before they actually hooked up, and I enjoyed it, but you know, it could have had a little bit more. Just a little bit more. It was super cheesy. That was the other thing. There were a lot of super cheesy lines within the story that were just like, that's super cheesy. Super cheesy. But it was a good book. I enjoyed it. I would read more about Dogwood Lane. The next book that I finished was A Side He'd Never Seen by Kristie Leigh. This is a contemporary novella, and I give it 4 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. This is an arc that I read for Kristie. It was a fun married couples sort of novella where they Calista, I think that's how I would pronounce her name. Clarissa. Bleh. Clarissa, she ends up getting dragged out by one of her friends to a toy party, and an adult toy party, and from there she starts to explore that other side of her sexual life with her husband and things like that, and they start doing different things together. And it was more about the exploration of being together and finding intimacy in different and new ways, because they used to schedule their sexual encounters on one day of the week, and so they were exploring new things. It was fun. It was sweet. It was sexy. It sort of opens the door for, you know, married couples to be like, okay, let's explore something a little different, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I finished was Imprisoned by K.L. Donn. This is a dark romance fairy tale retelling. I give this book 5 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I read this as an arc. It comes out this week for you guys. It is part of the Sinister Fairy Tales collection, which I am part of the art team to read them. I am enjoying these oh so much. Oh my goodness, I found so many new authors to sort of follow and start to read after and stuff like that. This one follows Ariana, Asher, Aries, and Callista, and it's a fairy tale retelling with a mashup of Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty. So good. It has such a little modern twist to it. There is some very dark and well, I wouldn't say, no, just dark themed things that end up happening, because the modern twist that is sort of taken within this book, it has to deal with human trafficking and torture and things like that. So tread lightly if those are some things that trigger you. I really enjoyed the story and the story arc of these characters, and it was just so good. It has a fantastical feel to it because it is a story about Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty, and it was just, I loved it. I loved it. I devoured this book in like one sitting. Well, actually it wasn't one sitting because I did it while I was at swim practice, but it's like a 2-hour, 3-hour book, and I just like ate it up. It was so good. So good. And there is going to be a spin-off book for it, and I'm super excited about that as well, because one of the characters was really integral into the storyline, and I would love to see what happens with that character now, after all that went on. So yeah. The next book that I finished was Ice Planet and Barbarians. Book number 1 by Ruby Dixon. This is an alien sci-fi erotica. I give this book 3.5 stars. I give it 4 Steam fans. I read it as an ARC, and I don't understand. I'm in the unpopular opinion. But then again, I have heard reviews that the first book in the series is not the best book in the series, that it gets better. And I can actually see that. The part 1 of this book was just unnecessary. It was absolutely unnecessary. It has graphic scenes of rape, of torture, of abduction, and it just wasn't needed at all whatsoever to get the point across that you have Georgie, who is a human female. She was abducted from her bed and by these aliens, and that while they were in transit to their new place of being or whatever, where they were going to be sold, the spaceship ends up crashing onto a different planet, and they are all left there. Her and 11 other women were left there. So yeah, it would just, that whole part 1 just wasn't necessary. It's like 4 chapters. It just wasn't necessary. It was like, why? Do not eat while you are trying to start to read this book. Oh my god, because it's just that gross. It's the gross, and it's just deplorable. I almost DNF'd it, but with so many people are like, oh, it's so great, it's such a great series, I'm like, I went ahead and finished it and stuff like that. So, you know, I am interested in reading, I guess, the other books, because it has been set up to follow the other women in the books and stuff like that. It ended abruptly too. I didn't feel like the story arc for our main characters, Georgie and Vectel, was complete by the end of the book. I was like, that's it? That's all? That's where you're going to leave me? And there's like 17 books in the series, and I'm like, whew, yeah. Don't know how much more I'm going to take. I did download the next book in the series, so I might do that. The next book that I finished was Mean Right Hook by Michele Mills. This is another alien sci-fi erotica. I give this book 4 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I listened to it on the podcast of Read Me Romance. Read Me Romance. And this book follows Leah, who is a human. It is like way post-apocalyptic, and we now have Earths and different planets have been found and things like that. Well, Leah is on a mining planet where she's been chosen to do an internship, and they can't touch the other, or the aliens that are on there, because it has something to do with mating and things like that. Well, she ends up getting stuck in an elevator on her way to her new job site with Saxton. Saxton is one of the aliens that is in the mining family there, and they end up figuring out that they're mates, and this is their story. They're stuck in the elevator, but then they figure out, when the elevator gets started again, they end up touching and figuring out that they're mated, and, you know, it's their story. It was sweet. This was enjoyable. I'm interested in reading about the other brothers, because there are a whole slew of brothers that was introduced in this book, and I would enjoy finishing this series out, or it's a new series that's coming, so I would probably end up reading the other books as well, because the brothers seem interesting. The final book that I read last week was Royally Endowed, which is Royally number 3 by Emma Chase. I give this book 4.5 stars. I give it 3 Steam fans. I listened to it as an audiobook, and this book follows Logan, who is one of the prince's bodyguards, or royal staff bodyguard, and Ellie, who is the princess's sister. And if you've read the first book in the series, then you know which prince I'm talking about and which princess I'm talking about. But they were in New York, so Logan ends up staying with Ellie to kind of protect her, and this is their story over quite a few years. So you get to see Ellie when she's in high school, and Logan is like 22, I think it is. So there's not a huge age gap, because she's a senior in high school when all this sort of goes down. So you get to see them and their progression over the years. They hold back their attraction to each other and things like that, but at the same time they're still looking after each other, and this is their story of how it evolved into them being together and figuring out, you know, why they work or how they can work and things like that. So I really enjoyed it, and that's all I can say about that. Yeah. What am I currently reading? I am currently reading The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart. If I am not mistaken, this is a larger scale story of the story that was included in the Team Sport 2 anthology, I believe, which is Lance and Maddie's story. I think that's her name. I'm pretty sure it's Lance's story. But I had already read this story, and I believe this is like an elaboration of their story together to see what more can happen, because the short story does leave off on sort of a cliffhanger, and I'm pretty sure that this is sort of a flushed out, larger, full novel for them. So I'm looking forward to really getting into this one. Then the other book that I'm reading is Royally Yours by Emma Chase. This is the 4th book in the series. This actually follows the Queen and how she became the way she was and finding her love story. I am still pretty fresh into it, so I'm enjoying it. It has a feel for like The Crown, how Queen Elizabeth II came into her power and everything like that, into her reign, and I'm sort of getting those parallels in this story, but I'm really enjoying it. So those are the books that I finished last week and the books that I am currently reading. I have a slew of other books that I'm going to be trying to get to this week. I don't know what order they're going to be in or what I'm going to be feeling to try and get into them, but I have a lot. Remember that the audiobookathon is happening March the 8th through the 21st. Go check out those videos. I have released so many of them. I released the announcement video, I recommendation videos, and I just released my OMR yesterday. So go check out what I may be reading or listening to during that readathon. As always, there is a feedback form down in the description box. I now have a recommendations form down there. What you'll need is the book title, book author, and the genre in which you want to recommend for me to read. Also, I ask that you leave your name so that if I do read a book that you have recommended to me, I can shout you out. Things like that. All of my social information down in the description box. Everything is timestamped, so if there's certain specific book that you are looking for a review for, make sure you're checking the description boxes of all my videos. I try and give you guys as much information as I possibly can to make your lives a little bit easier. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.